over the world. I'm going to begin by reading in the English on page 204 on the top left side of the page, a meditation on Kol Nidre. All the vows on our lips, the burdens in our hearts, the pent-up regrets about which we brooded and spoke, through prayers without end on last atonement day, did not change our way of life, did not bring deliverance in the year that is gone. From mountain peaks of fervor we fell to common ways at the close of the fast. Will you hear our regret? Will you open our prison, release us from the shackles of habit? Will you accept our prayers, forgive our wrongs, though we sin again and again? In moments of weakness, we do not remember promises of atonement day. Recall that we easily forget. Take only our heart's intent. Forgive us, pardon us. The Kol Nidre for the new Jewish year of 5782. As the ark is opened, we rise. By the authority of the court on high and by the authority of this court below, with divine consent and with the consent of this congregation, we grant permission to pray with those who have transgressed.
Bishiva shel mala, uvshiva shel mata, al dat hamakom, ve'al dat hakam, anu matirin, lehitpalel ima abaryani.
Page 205.
Kol Nidre וכינוסי Betellin lumevutallin lasceririn velakayamin Nidre
Now for their second recitation of the Kol Nidre, please join me in the English at the top of page 205. All vows, renunciations, bans, oaths, formulas of obligation, pledges, and promises that we vow are promised to ourselves and to God from this Yom Kippur to the next. May it approach us for good. We hereby retract. May they all be undone, repealed, canceled, voided, annulled, and regarded as neither valid nor binding. Our vows should not be considered vows, our renunciations should not be considered renunciations, and our promises should not be considered promises. We now prepare for the third recitation and final recitation of the Kol Nidre.
בטלין ומבוטלין, בטלין ומבוטלין, לשרירין ולקיימים, ולקיימים. נסלח לכל הדת בני ישראל, ולגר הגר בתוכם, ולגר הגר בתוכם, כי לכל העם בשגגה. סלח נא לבונם הזה כגודל חסדיך, וכאשר נשאת לעם הזה ממצרים ועד המה, ושם נאמר, ויאמר אדוני, סלחתי כדבריך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן
Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who's kept us in life, sustained us, and allowed us to reach this Yom Kippur. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. It's now my honor to call upon our congregational president, David Stein, to offer some words this evening.
Thank you, Rabbi Strauss. And to Cantor Finkelstein, what can I say? Your Kol Nidre prayers are both beautiful and spiritual. What a way to begin this Yom Kippur. I'd like to open my remarks by taking you back to 1979, the Friday night of my bar mitzvah, to be exact. My partner and I were lining up in the back of the sanctuary with our marchers, and as the service began, we walked down the center aisle, surrounded by our friends. As we approached the front row, we stopped, and Rabbi Siegel began his opening remarks. He always concluded with 2 Hebrew words and 4 English words. Bruchim habayim, we bid you welcome. I could not think of more appropriate words to let all of you here in person, as well as those watching on our live stream, just how we are feeling right now. Bruchim habayim, we bid you welcome. It truly is so wonderful to see all of you here in person, even with masks on. It was a very surreal feeling last year being in this great sanctuary with only 10 people in attendance, and I hope that next year we will be back to full capacity for all of our services, including our family service, which we are all missing right now. But let's not focus on what we don't have. Let us all be appreciative of what we do have. If you are not with us in person tonight, I hope you are gathered together with your family and watching us on one of our live stream platforms. Praying together as a family is a way to pass on the traditions, the richness, and the beauty of our religion to the next generation, L'Dor Vador. I am very thankful to all of you here tonight, and at the same time, also very grateful that today's technology has allowed us to all be together one way or another. Upon my installation as president several months ago, you may remember me telling you that the synagogue is the heart of every Jewish community, and you, our congregants, are the heartbeat. Without you, we could not survive. It has been a very difficult and challenging 18 months, and I hope you realize that every decision we have made during this time has been made with your best interests at heart. Our immediate past president, Jared Bloom, and I, along with the executive committee and board of trustees, have been working to find a way to bring people back together safely. I would like to thank Dr. Ed Septimus, who has been our senior medical advisor and has always taken the time to speak with us to help through these navigating through these ever-changing times. Just a few short months ago, I really thought we were coming out of this pandemic and thought we would have to have had close to a full house on these high holidays. The Delta variant had other ideas. On the positive side, we've had several B'nai Mitzvahs so far, and almost every weekend is booked through the end of the year. We've also resumed our Kiddush luncheons, our chapel breakfasts, and Torah study sessions, as well as many other in-person learning programs. I would also like to recognize Jennifer Levine, who is the head of school for our day school, as well as Cheryl Eskwitz, who heads our religious school. You and your staff have done a great job of educating our children from preschool to high school. Yasher Koach on a job well done, and please know the synagogue is here to help any way we can. The Beth Yeshurun Sisterhood also has several programs already planned, and there are some great speakers lined up for our 100 Jewish Men group. For all of you golfers, we're planning the return of the Yiddish Cup next spring, so be on the lookout for more information. Also coming up in March, on March 31st to be exact, we are looking forward to honoring the musical legacy of our incredible cantor, Meir Finkelstein. There will be a magnificent concert from cantors around the world who will be performing his original music and compositions. Two of the cantors that are scheduled to appear are Rachel Goldman from California and Ozzie Schwartz from New York. This is guaranteed to be a musical night you will not want to miss. And more information will be coming to you next month. Everyone should be receiving our weekly happenings email detailing the upcoming events for the week. If you're not receiving this email, please let us know. Another exciting development that has recently taken place are the new museum cases that were just installed in our atrium. Thanks to the expertise of Dr. Dan Musher and his museum team, we were able to build 11 new cases to display our incredible collection of Judaica. 10 of these cases have already been purchased and dedicated, and there's still one left for sale. If you are interested, please contact Jennifer Sutton in our office, and she will be more than happy to give you the details. Next time you're at Beth Yeshurun, I encourage all of you to view these new cases as well as all of the other items in our museum. Beth Yeshurun is blessed to have one of the finest collections of Judaica. So come in, take your time, and soak in the beauty that is our museum. In any event, we can't wait to see all of you back here in your spiritual home. So now the part you've all been waiting for. That's right, the annual High Holiday Appeal. I had the honor of giving the appeal last year, joking that it was part of my initiation to becoming the next president. Well, some things never change, and I'm back here again. I know it may sound familiar, but this year's appeal is more important than ever before. After the shofar is blown tomorrow night, that very next day, we will have a team in action beginning the replacement of our entire HVAC system. This is one of the largest projects the synagogue has undertaken, the Harvey restoration notwithstanding. There are parts of the system that are older than me and that are original to this building. This is a $4 million project and will be completed in the next 6 months. I know there are times that you are sitting in this sanctuary freezing, thinking that the AC is really working, like for those of you who were here for Rosh Hashanah, it was freezing in here. But while you were shivering, people in other parts of our building were schwitzing. It is time that this system be replaced, and we are lucky to have our great executive director, Andy Berger, who is tasked with overseeing this project. Part of the proceeds from this year's appeal will go directly towards paying for this new system. The proceeds from the appeal also help to fund many of our other synagogue programs and speakers. It truly is our hope that we do have a return to normalcy and that you will feel comfortable coming back to your synagogue. Last year, our incredible Director of Development, Jennifer Sutton, came up with the idea of a matching fund program for our appeal. This was such a huge success, she wanted to make this a permanent part of the High Holiday Appeal, so we created the Tzedakah Society. This is a group of our members who have pledged to match dollar for dollar on the High Holiday Appeal. For example, if you are only able to donate $180, then please note that due to the generosity of these congregants, your pledge will now be $360. I would like to acknowledge those inaugural members of the Tzedakah Society. ABC Doors and the Gary Schwartz family, Deborah and Jim Adler, Susan and Michael Bloom, Rona and Bruce Caress, Barbara and Dell Coleman, Joyce and Arthur Dauber, David DeVito, Trudy and Max Esses, Kelly and Marty Fine, Margie and Clive Fields, Karen and Buster Friedman, Martha and Don Friedman, Marilyn and Carrie Hoffman, Lorraine Horwitz, Sue and Stuart Jacobson, Sharon and Richard Kammerman, Susan and Leonard Kammerman, the Karkowski family, Joan and Louis Katz, Richard Liebman, Isabel and Eric Mayer, Carol and Dan Musher, Linda and Jerry Payne, Joy and Scott Plantowski, Paula and Irving Posmentier, Tammy Pye and Marcy Rothman, Joe Rice, Glenn Rosenbaum, Louise and Stuart Rosenthal, Marcia and Lonnie Schooler, Shannon and Danny Sheena, Amira and Brad Staller, Andrea and David Stein, Robin and Brad Stein, Shirley of blessed memory and Bruce Stein, Tracy and Gary Stein, Jill and Charlie Talisman, Linda and Tommy Usick, Jeannie and Gary Wormuth, Bonnie Winograd, and Judy and Ronnie Yambra. Thank you all so much for being a part of this group. And it's not too late to become a member. And if you are interested, once again, contact Jennifer Sutton in our synagogue office. As many of you know, my children mark the 5th generation in my family to be a part of this great synagogue. We have celebrated many life cycle events here, both happy and sad. We are not alone, as I know there are families with even deeper roots here than me. This year, we are proud to be celebrating our 75th anniversary of the merger between Bethel and Adat Yeshurun. I know that we all hope and pray that the generations to follow will also have this beautiful shul to pray in with their families. In order to secure the future, we need your help now. I know that many of you have already sent in your appeal pledge, and I appreciate and thank you for making your pledge in advance. If you have not made your pledge yet, there are several ways to make your donation to this appeal. If you are here in person, you can peel off your name from the High Holiday ticket and place it on the pledge cards that were in your Moxors. Fold down the appropriate tab and hand your pledge card to one of our board members who will be walking around shortly. If you are watching us on our website, then look for the red Donate Now logo under the viewer. Click on it and it will take you to our High Holiday appeal form. If you are viewing on our app, Facebook page, or YouTube channel, then please go to our website at www.bethyeshurun.org and look for the red Donate Now logo. Finally, you can also make your donation the old-fashioned way and either drop it off in person after the holidays or just mail it in. Whichever way you decide to give to our appeal, please know that it is greatly appreciated for today, for tomorrow, and for generations to follow. I would like to conclude with a famous quote by Anne Frank: "Give and you shall receive much more than you ever thought possible. Give and give again. People who give will never be poor." I sincerely appreciate all of our incredible congregational families for always stepping up to support Beth Yeshurun. On behalf of my wife, Andrea, my children, Julie and Jonathan, the executive committee, and our board of trustees, Gamar Chatima Tova, may you and your family be inscribed and sealed in the book of life for this year and many years to come. Thank you.
Let's take a moment now. There'll be some board members coming down the aisles to collect cards if you have not turned one in already. We'll take just a moment before we resume our service. And we're now ready to return to our Maksarim. We turn to page 207 as we begin the Ma'ariv section of our Kol Nidre service. Page 207, please rise. Living and ever-present God, may your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. And you may be seated now as we continue page 208.
ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, Adonai Echad. Join me for the next line too. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We now continue silently with the second and third paragraphs of the Shema, page 209.
Adonai Elohechem emet.
We'll read responsively at the bottom of page 209. Truly, this is our faithful affirmation, binding on us that Adonai is our God, and there is none other, and we, Israel, are God's people. God redeems us from earthly rulers. Our sovereign delivers us from the hand of all tyrants. Brings judgment upon our oppressors, retribution upon all our mortal enemies. God performs wonders beyond understanding, marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, leads us past the false altars of our enemies. God exalted us above all those who hated us, avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh, offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. Brought Israel from its midst to lasting freedom, led them through the divided water of the Sea of Reeds. As their pursuing enemies drowned in the depths, God's children beheld the power of the divine, willingly accepting God's rule. Then Moses, Miriam, and the people Israel joyfully sang this song to you. Who is like you, Adonai, among the mighty? Who is like you, adorned in holiness, revered in praise, working wonders? Your children recognized your sovereignty as you split the sea before Moses. This is my God, they responded, and they said, Adonai will reign forever. Mi chamocha, page 210.
Moshe ubnei Yisrael echadu shira lesimcha raba ve'amru kulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh nora ve'ilot osei felech
We'll read now responsively at the top of page 211. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully and to waken again to life, our sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us, remove from us enemies and pestilence, swords, starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings. For you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you are the sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. Canopy of peace, Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us and over all the people Israel and over Jerusalem.
Salenu sukat shalomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Aporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Middle of 212. For on this day atonement shall be made for you to purify you from all your transgressions. In the presence of Adonai you shall be pure.
Ki vayom hazeh yechaper aleichem letaher etchem mikol chatoteichem Yitkadan v'yitkadash shemei rabah ve'almani v'rachirutei ve'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael v'gala v'zeman kariv ve'imru Amen Yehei shmei rabah mevarach le'alam Barach, ve'yishtabach, ve'yitpar v'yitromam ve'yitnaseh, ve'yitadar ve'yitalleh ve'yitallal, shemei nekudesha berichu, le'elah, le'elah, mikol birchata ve'shirata,
We've now reached the first silent prayer for this Yom Kippur, the silent Amidah, page 213 through page 221.
Let's conclude the Amidah. We put our arms around each other and let's all join together in Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uya Aseh Shalom Aleinu, Shalom Aleinu, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Uya Aseh Shalom Aleinu, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Uya Aseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uya Aseh Shalom Aleinu, Shalom Aleinu, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Amen. Amen.
May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us and for all Israel for this new year. And let us say, Amen. And you may be seated. I'm thankful that social media didn't exist when I was a teenager. I think of all the stupid, thoughtless, reckless things I said. I cringe when thinking if I would have posted some of those words. And that was my immediate reaction to the news back in March about a black reporter named Alexi McCammon. Alexi had an impressive resume for a 27-year-old. She had served as a successful political reporter for NBC. The National Association of Black Journalists named her the Emerging Journalist of the Year. In March, Teen Vogue chose her to serve as its editor-in-chief. But then something from her social media past reemerged. When she was 17, she had posted a few anti-Asian and homophobic tweets. 2 years ago, when those tweets first resurfaced, McCammon had deleted them and apologized, calling her words deeply insensitive. In March, he posted a second apology, writing, "There's no excuse for perpetuating awful stereotypes in any way. I'm very sorry for my hurtful and inexcusable language." A prominent journalist, Jonathan Swan, tweeted, "I've worked with Alexi for 4 years. I know her well, can say this unequivocally. The idea she is racist is absurd." His words and her apologies weren't enough for the staff at Teen Vogue and the online Twitter mob who called for her resignation. Within just a few days, she was forced to resign. Of course, it's never okay to use or post any sort of racial slurs, no matter our age. But did Alexi McCammon deserve to lose her job? Now you may be asking, "Rabbi, why should I care? I don't read Teen Vogue. I really don't want my teens to ever read Teen Vogue. And my child or my grandchild, they would never post something so wrong. Who cares?" My friends, don't be so sure. Stories like these are now happening every single day across the United States. There are endless and endless examples of expulsions, school acceptances withdrawn, jobs lost, lives ruined. For example, another young woman from Tennessee was barred from the university of her dreams for a word she used in an online video when she was just 15. A top executive was fired because of an opinion he held over 30 years ago. Never mind that he had changed his mind or that his opinion was commonly held at the time. A Muslim immigrant's successful food and catering company in Minnesota was destroyed when not him, but his daughter admitted to posting racist comments. Neither his long-standing in the community nor his quick action to sever his company's ties with his daughter were able to salvage his company. Yes, we'd be disgusted by what his daughter posted, but should the father's company be destroyed for the sins of his daughter? After he saw his life's work evaporate in a matter of days, he admitted he now struggled to sustain his belief in the American dream. I could go on and on all night. How often do we read about online mobs damaging the lives of people of all ages? Sad that again, that someone else was a victim of cancel culture, yet go on, relieved it wasn't us. The forgiveness a neighborhood often gave a person who'd said something wrong now is to be granted to him or her by everyone who has a phone. We become a society of people walking on eggshells, constantly looking over our shoulders, worried about anything we've ever texted, emailed, tweeted, blogged, liked, or said in passing. Is this the world we want to live in? Yes, of course, there are positive aspects of the numerous voices found on social media. It's provided an influence for those who might have been intimidated by people or institutions with power and access to strong legal representation. The cases brought out against characters like Harvey Weinstein are great examples. It allows people who might otherwise not have had the time, money, or resources to bring attention to behavior that ought to be condemned. Here the effect has been positive, empowering, and morally significant. Yes, there are people who do not deserve to be restored to good reputation. But there's a difference. There's a difference between stopping a type of behavior that is collectively agreed on as despicable and wrong, like workplace sexual harassment, versus canceling someone for one mistake without any real and nuanced discussion. With all of the good, in most cases on social media, there's vigilante justice that follows no legal norms or no due process, no impartial procedure for deciding whether a wrong has been committed, no alibis or acquittals. There's mob rule, where people are quick to judge and slow to question. And once the mob has been let loose, it becomes difficult to distinguish between genuine cases of wrongdoing and other accusations motivated by malice, a desire for revenge, politics, or some other less than fully moral cause. Today, in the America of 2021, the judge and the jury seem to be the thousands of anonymous Twitter trolls, many with mischief and malice in their hearts and too much time on their hands. Instead of innocent until proven guilty, it's become guilty until proven innocent. But online, it's almost impossible to prove innocence. There's little chance at all for the accused to present his or her case. If the accused gets a chance to explain, or the truth finally emerges, the online crowd has usually moved on, and their lives have already been destroyed. Anyone can be a candidate for cancellation. No one seems to get a second chance. Instead, you're tossed away and forgotten, lifetimes remembered by their worst moments. The sin is a stain on the sinner which cannot ever be entirely removed. In our day and age, why are so many people being canceled easily and often? This past year, the Jewish world lost a giant. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, may his memory be for a blessing. And before his death, he finished his book entitled Morality, Restoring the Common Good in Divided Times. In these times, I can't recommend his book more. And in his book, he gives us an answer by making the distinction between a shame culture and a guilt culture. The world of social media has become the perfect example of a shame culture. Shame societies think of morality as an external demand. They're other-directed. To feel shame is to experience what one looks like in the sight of others who pass judgment on us. And once judgments are made, they can't be removed. And like the world of social media, a shame society lives and breathes on taking someone's worst moment to publicly shame them. The world of social media is an impersonal world where it doesn't even make sense to confess your sins. With no space for forgiveness, no path back from shame to acceptance, it makes more sense to cover up your wrongdoing by any means possible. America has become a country based on shame. And there's a large difference between a shame culture and a guilt culture. Our Jewish tradition is an example of a guilt culture, and that probably doesn't surprise any of you. A Jewish guilt trip is considered one of the most powerful forces in the universe. But as hard as Jewish guilt can be, it can be a very good thing. Because a guilt culture thinks of morality as an internal demand, not external. It's a voice within. It's a voice of conscience given to us by our Creator. We Jews have always said we believe in a just and a compassionate God who can help us determine correctly whether or not a sin has been committed. Our moral lives, our morality, our ethics are based on something other than the whims of current public opinion. Rather, based on the integrity and sanctity of all people. A guilt culture helps people move past shame by making a distinction between the sinner and the sin. Yes, the act may be wrong, but even when the person is guilty, the person is still given the opportunity to transform themselves. It makes more sense to admit a genuine mistake. You can be forgiven if you make teshuvah. That's the Hebrew word for making up for doing something wrong, a word we'll use a lot tonight and tomorrow. Teshuvah comes from the Hebrew root meaning to return. When we miss the mark, when we go astray, the hope is that we can do what we can to return to the good graces of God and the community. Jewish teachings have always insisted most people, in most occasions, cannot be forever canceled. Your worth as a person is just too valuable. That's why in our Jewish tradition, there's not shame that allows for a permanent rejection. Rather, we have guilt that allows for all important days like Yom Kippur. Otherwise, there'd be no reason to be here tonight. No reason to give up food and drink for 24 hours. No reason to pray with all of our heart and all of our soul. That's why we have Yom Kippur. It's not a burden. It's a sacred day. It's a gift. It's a yearly opportunity. It's God's gift to us to start anew. It's a celebration of divine forgiveness. Unlike the unforgiving nature of our current cultural moment, Yom Kippur, our Day of Atonement, allows us to release the heavy burdens of our past. At its core, Yom Kippur teaches that you are more than the worst thing you've ever done if you accept the call to change. In fact, making teshuvah is considered even greater than being a completely righteous person from the start. It's said by the rabbis, the place where the repentant stand, the righteous could not stand. And the rabbis teach us if you break a vase and put it back together, it never looks as good as it originally did. But in the eyes of heaven, if you break a vase and put it back together, it looks better than ever before. As the Kotzker Rebbe reminds us, nothing is more whole than a broken heart. I've seen it often. For all of us who are broken, nothing is more whole than a broken heart. Perhaps our Jewish tradition has a lot to say to Americans today. Can we help shift our cultural norms to allow for normal people like you and me to apologize, make teshuvah, and move on from the mistakes we as humans often make? For everyone who is not perfect, can we be more forgiving? And I believe the problem of cancel culture is not a left-wing issue or a right-wing issue. It's a human issue. And what I found is that the loudest voices online on both sides, on the right and on the left, are often not the ones that represent most of us. They ignore that most of us as Americans are forgiving. And I believe we want things to change. According to the Cato Institute, 62% of Americans say they have political views and opinions that they're afraid to share. In another poll, 80% of Americans of all ages, religions, races, and political persuasions believe political correctness is a problem. 80%. Why are we too afraid to do something? Let me end with the following. This past year, NBA player Myers Leonard was seen on the video app Twitch using an anti-Semitic slur. He quickly issued a prompt apology, admitting his ignorance, and said he was deeply sorry for his action. Yet his team, the Miami Heat, released him. Sponsors dropped him. He was canceled. But Julian Edelman, a former NFL player from the New England Patriots and a proud Jew, stepped in. He posted an open letter on Twitter inviting Leonard to a Shabbat dinner so they could talk. Edelman offered to teach him why he was wrong, and at the same time, he offered to educate him about Jewish history, to give him the opportunity to work together to fight anti-Semitism. He gave him a path from guilt to repentance. Since that time, Myers Leonard has been remorseful and emotional, saying he wished he could go back in time and correct what he did wrong. And then he did the most important thing of all. He backed his words with actions. He visited the Miami Beach Holocaust Memorial. He studied with rabbis and community leaders. He befriended Holocaust survivors. He even spent a week teaching youth basketball at a Miami JCC summer camp. That's repentance. Julian Edelman's approach was the very opposite of cancel culture. Instead of immediately dismissing Myers Leonard, he offered him a pathway to forgiveness, and it was taken. It was a true demonstration of tikkun olam, repairing the world one action at a time. There's nothing greater than giving an individual the opportunity to make amends. And don't we live in a better world when instead of working to cancel, we work to repair?
Hopefully I won't get canceled for that sermon. We're now ready to return to our service, and we invite our friend Dr. Benjamin Musher to assist the cantor in leading us in the all-important Yom Kippur prayer, Ya'aleh. We rise, page 223.
You may be seated. I'm reading now on the top of page 225. The soul is yours, the body is your creation. Have compassion on your handiwork. The soul is yours, the body is yours. Deal with us according to your nature. Hanishma Allah, page 225.
Adonai shemecha lemana shimcha Adonai v'salach talavoneinu ki ravu haneshama
We continue now on page 226. The 13 attributes of God is sung as Adonai, Adonai. Please rise. Forgive us, our Creator, for we have sinned. Pardon us, our Sovereign, for we have transgressed. For you, Adonai, are kind and forgiving. You act generously to all who call on you. And please be seated. Throughout these holy days, we'll ask again and again for God to hear us, to hear our prayers, Shema Kolenu. But let us ask ourselves during this past year, did we hear God? Because maybe, just maybe, God has tried to speak with you. But did you hear God? One of my teachers, Rabbi Mimi Feigelson, writes, God often sends us postcards. The only thing is they aren't rectangle with a shiny picture on one side and words on the other. God's postcards come in the form and shape of people and events. They come at times in the form of a challenge that demands of us to exit our comfort zone and push ourselves to overcome our inhibitions. At times, they manifest in the shape of a hand held out to us with love and care. And sometimes, if we trust ourselves, they come in the form and shape of a new, innovative, or creative thought that we have witnessed for the first time. This year, this night, yes, Shema Kolenu, God, hear our prayers. But let us also hear God's prayers for us. Shema Kolenu, page 233. Please rise.
ברחמים וברצון את השיבנו אדוני אליך, השיבנו אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו, ימינו כקדם. אל תשליכנו, אל תשליכנו כי חלות
You may be seated. Our God and God of our ancestors, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. We join together, Ki Anu Amecha, page 234.
כי אנו עמך ואתה אלוהינו, אנו בניך ואתה אבינו, אנו עבדיך ואנו ואתה אדוננו, אנו קהלך ואתה חלקנו, אנו נחלתך ואתה גורלנו, אנו צונך ואתה רובנו, אנו חרבך ואתה נוטרנו, אנו פולתך ואתה יוצרנו, אנו רעייתך ואתה דודנו, אנו סגולתך ואתה קרובנו, אנו עמך ואתה מלכנו, אנו ממירך ואתה ממירנו, אנו הזיפנים ואתה רחום וחנון, אנו כשיורף ואתה ערך אפיים, אנו מלאי יבון ואתה מלא רחמים, אנו ימינו כצל עובר ואתה ושנותיך לא יתמו.
Our God and God, our ancestors, hear our prayer. Do not ignore our plea. Our God and God of our ancestors, we are neither so insolent nor so obstinate as to claim in your presence that we are righteous without sin. For we, like our ancestors who came before us, have sinned. We're now ready for the first of two confessionals for this night. The first is a shamnu, and at the recitation of each sin, we hit ourselves customarily over our hearts to wake ourselves up to do better this next year. A shamnu, page 235. Please rise. We now go to the next confessional, the Al-Chet, which begins on the top of page 237.
Al-Chen shechadam lefanecha be'ones v'ratzon. Al-Chen shechatanu lefanecha beyetzer hara Al-Chen shechatanu lefanecha biyodeim uvelo yodeim ve'al kulam elo aselichot salach lanu mecha lanu kaper lanu ve'al kulam elo aselichot salach lanu mecha lanu salach lanu mecha lanu kaper lanu Al-Chen shechadanu lefanecha b'chachash u'b'chazav Al-Chen shechatanu lefanecha b'einayim ramot Al-Chen shechatanu lefanecha b'azut metzach ve'al kulam elo asichot salach lanu mecha lanu על חטא שגדול לפניך בפרי גדול. על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתשומת יד, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בתימון לבב והגולם ללא סליחות, סלח לנו מחל לנו כפר לנו.
We know it's been a tough year. We're still not where we want to be. And therefore, I think our community would benefit from a communal expression of encouragement, comfort, and balance. So I share with you now a positive confessional, a positive vidui for our congregation, compiled by two of my colleagues. As Rabbi Avraham Yitzhak HaKohen Cook, the first Ashkenazi chief rabbi of what would become Israel, once said that Jews should celebrate our good deeds as much as lament our sins. So tonight, God, remember us also for our good deeds this past year. And despite the challenges, we've acted authentically, we've blessed, we've cultivated compassion, we've delighted, we've engaged empathetically, we've favored fairness, we've galvanized, we've inspired, we've joined, we've kindled kindness, we've laughed, we've matured, we've nurtured, we've offered optimism, we've persevered, we've questioned, we've released, we've sympathized, we've tried, we've uplifted, we've welcomed, we've X'd out excess, we've yearned. For all these good deeds, O God, source of life, inspire us, encourage us, sustain our hope. Avinu Malkeinu, page 243.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol aleinu, ve'arol aleinu, v'tapeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei derech, v'chelev v'ra'af, me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei chol tzar, u'mastin, me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Kotvenu besefer chayim tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, Chadesh aleinu, Chadesh aleinu, Shana tova. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu, Shema Koleinu. Malkeinu, Chaneinu, Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim, Aseim anu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Aseim anu, Tzedaka v'chesed, V'hoshienu, Aseim anu, Tzedaka v'chesed, Aseim anu, Tzedaka v'chesed,
And you may be seated now as we continue with the Kaddish Shalem, page 245.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמך הווה, ואלמדי לחירותי, וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון ומכון וחי בכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן, יהי שמך המברך, לעולם ולעלמי הוויה, יתברך וישתבח ויתבר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ולחמתה, לאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלום צלומתו לכל ישראל, קודם עווני בשמיה, ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו על כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו amen.
Please rise now for the Aleinu, page 246.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, אגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהונות השמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומשב יקרו בשמיים יבעל, ושכינות עוזו, ושכינות עוזו, וגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אלון, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, ידעת יום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ימעל ועל הארץ מתחת עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, היום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
You may be seated. And now the Mourner's Kaddish for mourners and those observing Yartzeit, page 247. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirute v'yamlik malchute, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedech Beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'izman kari v'imeru, Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Olomei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei Dekudisha B'richu. Le'ela le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imeru. Amen. Yehei Shalama Rabbah Mina Shemaya V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imeru. Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imeru. Amen.
Good evening again. And I want to first thank Dr. Benjamin Musher for his wonderful participation this evening in helping lead our prayers. On Rosh Hashanah, just last week, we had viewers in 44 states, in 10 countries, Israel, Canada, Mexico, no huge surprise. But we also had viewers in Argentina, Australia, South Africa, Japan, and the Bahamas. Now, if I was in the Bahamas, I would not be watching Beth Yeshurun. But we're grateful to all of you who've joined us virtually here in Houston and from all over the country and throughout the world. And I ask, if you're not a member of our congregation but have enjoyed watching our services online, please consider a donation to Congregation Beth Yeshurun. Your support allows us to provide the worship services you'll continue to enjoy tomorrow over these all-important days. And please go to our website to make a donation. Tomorrow, of course, our observance of Yom Kippur continues, beginning at 9:30 a.m. here in the Baruch Sanctuary. And I invite you to stay with us the entire day. It makes the fast much easier. We'll begin here at 9:30 a.m. with Shacharit, and then our Torah service, our Haftarah, of course, our Israel Bonds appeal, our Yizkor service, and after Yizkor, we'll have a beautiful Musaf service with some of the most important prayers of our holy day. At the conclusion of our Musaf service, we welcome Dr. Hyman Penn, a second-generation survivor, to speak about his experiences, his family's experiences during the Holocaust as part of our martyrology service. As we always do at Beth Yeshurun, thanks to Rabbi Morgan, we'll have two Jews by choice who will speak to us about why they chose Judaism. We'll have a break around 3:30 for about 45 minutes, an hour or so. And all are welcome to stay during the break, whether it's here in the Barg. We'll have chairs and tables set out in the Sukkah courtyard if you'd like to go outside. It should be a fairly pleasant day for mid-September in Houston. And we'll also be having a mindful meditation in our Greenfield Chapel, led by Dr. Beniza Mirza Gruber. At 4:30 p.m., we'll have our afternoon mincha service, led by our wonderful teens. And we'll also have our teen speakers to speak about our Kehillah High trip this past summer, a Beth Yeshurun-sponsored trip to Israel. We'll have one teen speak about that experience in Israel, one teen to speak about their experiences in our day school, and one teen speak about what it means to be a member, active member of our Kehillah High School. Rabbi Fort will then deliver her sermon. And then we'll have Ne'ilah at 6:30 p.m., and then Havdalah, and the final blast of the shofar, right on the dot at 7:49 p.m. And one of the challenges of this year is that we can't have our young children with us. We miss them. Those children 12 and under who can't be vaccinated at this time. But we want to continue that beautiful Beth Yeshurun tradition of the glow stick procession. We can't do it inside, but our doctors said we can do it outside. So we invite all of our young children under 12 and their parents to join Rabbi Fort on the preschool playground at 7:15 p.m. And they'll have an opportunity to have a glow stick procession, a brief Ne'ilah service to end Yom Kippur, Havdalah service to bring Yom Kippur to a close also at 7:49 p.m. And when Yom Kippur ends, we turn to Sukkot and Simchat Torah. And we invite everyone to visit the Beth Yeshurun Sukkah this upcoming Tuesday, September 21st at 5:30 p.m. We'll have an Israeli-themed dinner entitled Schnitzel in the Sukkah. We'll have special activities for our young children, and everyone will have the opportunity to shake the lulav and etrog. And on Thursday night, September 23rd, we invite our young professionals to join Rabbi Fort for Jazz in the Sukkah. We'll have live jazz music and a New Orleans-style dinner and a chance to give back to those victims of Hurricane Ida. And that'll be Thursday night, September 23rd. And then on Sunday, September 26th, we invite our 8th to 12th graders to a free Sukkah lunch with nachos and all of your favorite fixings entitled Nacho Average Sukkah. And that's Sunday, September 26th. And we thank our wonderful Sarah Goldberg for coming up with that name and all our creativity as our youth advisor. And on Tuesday, September 28th, we'll celebrate Simchat Torah outside. We invite all of our young children, all of our families, and people of all ages. At 6 p.m., we invite our families to travel through Torah, complete all the stations to read Moses and the Mountain, and get your candy reward. Because then at 7 o'clock, we'll have our traditional Simchat Torah service, complete with all hakafot, and of course, the special Beth Yeshurun candy hakafa to end Simchat Torah that evening in our parking lot outside. And of course, the next morning, on Wednesday, September 29th, we'll continue our Simchat Torah celebration. One last announcement, and it's an important one. This is a very special year at Beth Yeshurun. This upcoming February, we'll be commemorating something really important in the history of our congregation. Some of you may know the Texas Historical Commission has designated Congregation Beth Yeshurun as a recorded Texas historic landmark. And this is the highest honor the state of Texas can bestow on a structure. And this designation was based on Beth Yeshurun's significant history and our building's architectural merit and its status as an exemplary model of preservation. It's a perfect way to celebrate our 75th year since the merger that created Beth Yeshurun in 1946. And the dedication of this historical marker is scheduled to take place at 1:30 p.m. on Sunday, February 6th. And more information will be available soon, and we'd love to see all of you there. Finally, look for an email following Yom Kippur previewing all of our upcoming programs. It's going to be a good year, and we've entitled it Welcome Back to Beth Yeshurun. And this email will contain information about our adult education, young families and parents programs, 100 Jewish men, sisterhood, young professionals, our Yes Group, CBY socials, social action, guest speakers, special Shabbatot, and many community partnerships. I look forward to seeing all of you there as we come back home to our spiritual home at Beth Yeshurun. On this evening, I wish everybody a Gamar Chatima Tova. May we all be sealed for a good year ahead as we now conclude our service with Adon Olam, page 175.
Adon Olam asher halach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'et nasa v'chefetzo kol azai melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado imelach nora ve'hu haya ve'hu hove ve'hu yeh b'tifara ve'hu echad ve'yet sheni lehamshir elo leachbira Veli reishis, veli tachlit, velo ha'oz ve'ha'misra, ve'hu eili ve'chai goli, ve'tzur chevli ve'et tzara, ve'hu nisi u'manosli, menat kosi be'yom ekra, ve'yado afkir ruchi, ve'et ishan ve'ha'ira, ve'im ruchi geviyati, Adonai.
Have a good night, everyone.